All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Traveling Hoopers podcast. I am your host, the one and only Alan Pettigrew Jr. In front of me are my beautiful, almost light-skinned friends, Calvin McGowan and Philip Arthur Dixon. Guys, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
What's up, y'all? Once again, I'm Calvin McGowan, and I don't know, good to be here. The college AP Top 25 dropped, and the season begins tomorrow. NBA, it's a good time for basketball.
Right? Feels like Christmas Eve.
And I'll reintroduce myself since Alan already did. My name is Philip Dixon, aka Old Spice Man, and we're just here to talk basketball. This past week, if you listen to our last week's show, a lot of stuff shifted about conversational topics we had mentioned, and we're here to do our thing. You feel me?
It's preseason, baby. Everything we did last week does not matter, but we still on this. We made the final roster for these teams, so we're getting into the season. Today we have a interesting topic. We're looking at the 50 greatest players from the first 50 years of the NBA, and we're basically kicking people out to make room for the next 75 that's supposed to be coming out sometime this season. Guys, it is a lot of people that are probably paid in like the 50s and 60s that are getting out of here. Like the first name that comes to mind, which I'm pretty sure we're going to have to look at the numbers, but Paul Arizon, I don't think he's going to make it into the
What's his numbers? You can't say it unless you know his numbers.
Dog, his name is Paul Arizon. I literally have no idea who this dude is. I have no faith. That Paul.
Man, but you a basketball fan.
You do kind of gotta look at the numbers.
You're a basketball fan and a basketball current analyst. You're not a basketball historian. Of course, you wouldn't know his name.
Like his career numbers are 22, 8.6, and 2.3.
Dog, this man was born in 1928.
Listen, it don't matter when he was born. All that matters is the number he's putting up. You know what I mean? The impact he made. That's what really matters.
Also, there were 2 years he didn't play because he was in the Marine Corps. I just want to throw this out there.
I think
that is not David Robinson, so
that definitely adds to his legacy, though. If you just don't play for 2 years, then come back and still kill, come on now.
Yeah, 16,266 career points. He's gonna do some work.
Yes, there's no one, even though this list came out approximately 25 years ago, there was no one on this list that he just tossed in there. They all have valid reasons to be in there. Now, as a historian and a certified historian that I am, we cannot be presentist. We can't. There are certain players that, they're in the, they're doing well in the league right now, but they don't have the resume of all-time, career type of numbers that some of these individuals have, right? And before the podcast started, Alan, you mentioned one of them, and I would like you to, point out the whole Luka situation.
Oh, are you talking about? I mentioned two players. We talking about
Luka Doncic. Why is Luka Doncic not on this list?
Oh, because he a baby. He's been in the league 3 years. Literally anything could happen in the next couple months where Luka's 3 years are like Brandon Roy status. Where we all talk about how mythical of a human being this man was. But if nothing else happens afterwards, we're going to look mad stupid putting him on the top 75 greatest players of all time when we get to year 200, where I will be 50. Can you imagine that? I'm going to be 50 when we have to go back and do this in a couple years. By the time, I'll be voting for that. So it's all good.
Okay, and I'll be right there telling you who to vote for, so I get it.
And I would not be listening. Thank you, though.
I mean, it sounds good. It sounds good now, but whatever. But yeah, I just want to make that clear. We cannot be presentists in this situation. Okay,
I'm
looking at this list.
I mean, kind of looking at his numbers. In fairness, I have not watched this dude play at all because, I wasn't born yet, and the film is hard to come by. But statistically, I could be wrong, but he kind of strikes me as like white Carmelo if Carmelo got a ring.
And you can argue that Carmelo's top 50. You can argue Carmelo's top 50.
Easy.
well, not even argue, right? He's a top 10 scorer of all time, right? Like just based off pure skill and ability, a top 10 scorer of all time. So if he has Carmelo numbers with the ring, then like he's in the conversation even 25 years after this original list came out.
Let me look at Melo's numbers now, though.
All right, should we adjust for inflation though? Because I am a big believer in, if you was hooping in 1940, I don't really care that much, yo. Like
but also you got to add in the fact that some of these dudes who are in here weren't playing without a 3-point line.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, like you have to keep all these things into consideration because, yeah, they were playing in 1950 or 60 or whatever it was, right? But or some of these players playing at that time, but you got to take them into like consideration for like the times. How good were they for the times? And I mentioned this last year on this podcast, but you have to think of basketball like this, like people tend to think about chess, right? You can never answer who the greatest grandmaster in chess is. You can only compare them to their time to compare how good they are, according to their competition, right? And that's kind of how you have to think of this basketball. It's not as fun because you just want to trash everybody from the 50s and everybody from the 60s, and you kind of can't start trashing people from the 70s. But you gotta take everybody you gotta take everybody's time into consideration. So, just saying. Like, I know that's not a fun thing to do, but you gotta do it if you're gonna do anything with any kind of diligency.
All right. So, the beauty of being the editor and the producer of this podcast is I can literally make this look however I want it to at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and be biased and be ignorant and be a presentist because I've seen like a little bit of like film from the 50s, and I'll let you guys be accurate. I'm here to make jokes.
Works for me.
Yeah, everybody got their role. You know what I mean? Like, everybody got their role. But I will start off by saying this. Rick Barry
stays.
Rick Barry is top 25.
Rick Barry stays.
All time?
Mm-hmm. Hot.
Granted, it was like an all-star game between the ABA and NBA, but I did see like most of a game from back then where he was in. He stays. He was a lot colder than I thought he would be.
Rick Barry, if you look it up, has almost identical numbers to Kobe Bryant, and all the way through. If you look it up, and Kobe Bryant's higher probably because like defensive reasons, but all the way through, Rick Barry has identical stats. Like, it's nuts to me. It's really nuts. But once again, people tend to forget about these people because Rick Barry now is only known for his underhand free throw shooting, right? That's like what he's known for in history.
And plus, if that's the only reason why you're known, does that technically take you down a notch?
No, it doesn't.
No.
He was surrounded by ignorance. Rick Barry. Okay, let me make sure I get the story right. Rick Barry played on the same team for 1 year or for a couple years as Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain is historically bad at free throws, right? Rick Barry told Wilt Chamberlain to shoot free throws underhanded. That one season, Wilt Chamberlain is Wilt Chamberlain's best free throw percentage for his career for one season. But Wilt Chamberlain actively stopped doing it because he said he didn't like the way it looked. It looked bad. And that whole mindset transitioned into the granny shot. If he got Wilt Chamberlain to shoot the best free throws ever for his career, an all-time great, arguably top 10 player, then I think if you knock it down for him just being known historically for free throws, you have to knock him right back up to where he was for helping an all-time great player shoot his best free throw percentages for a particular season.
All right, so I'll let that pass. That's a good enough story where we can keep him in here.
Hey, listen,
Rick Barry could go though. Like, he's a lot better than I thought he would be. Like, if you actually watch him, like if you can dig up some it was surprising. I'm like, I didn't know he was that serious.
Oh yeah. I also heard he's an asshole. So
Oh yes,
I
which is
actually
why
want him to stay in there for legacy reasons.
like that's probably why nobody else bothered to shoot that shot like that. It's why none of us shoot underhand, like the free
His son
throws.
does, right?
What'd you say?
His son does, right?
I have no idea what you said.
His son does.
I mean, maybe his son does, but I'm just saying, like, it probably his being an asshole is probably why that stuff never caught on. And like, he probably wasn't a particularly charismatic asshole either, because like people still wanted to be like Jordan.
That's
like
true.
people still kind of like Kobe.
He was a 1950s white man douche. You know what I mean? Like no, he got no kind of swag at all. He's just like this guy, but he just happened to be really good at basketball. Because look,
sounds like somebody's grandpa.
I mean, he is somebody's grandpa at this point. So
I mean, listen, he averaged 23, 6, and 5.
Oh yeah. Okay, so look, Rick Barry stays in. Also, great genes. He got 2.
That was just in the That was just in the NBA too.
Literally, in the words of Philip, he got 2 white men into the league, so he is doing his job as a father.
Like in the ABA, he averaged 37.5 and 4.1.
Okay, don't nobody care about assists.
What?
I care. What you talking? That's the only reason some of these things are in this list.
If you would have said he had 2 assists and he still was dropping off 30, I care less about the assists.
That is facts, though. If he had 2 assists, you really can't. He might as well have none. That's hilarious. But you can't say you don't care about assists, though. But if you do have 2 assists, you might as well have none. That's
he can actually pass pretty well, though. Honestly.
Oh, but speaking of passing, excuse me, another white man on this list, Pistol Pete.
Hey, so I was watching some Pistol Pete highlights today.
Uh-huh.
I am glad that was happening in like the 70s.
Yeah.
Because I always feel weird when we talk about revolutionary. Because you see like what the first person does, and you're like, okay, I'm glad that turned heads then. Because that is like middle school level now.
Oh, no, you're tripping. You can watch videos of the stuff people was doing, and people nowadays can't do that. 100%.
I agree. It just looks funky. It looks funky.
Oh yeah. Some of their stuff looks funky, and it's just like you watch, and it's like these dudes could hang. Like if they had the same like training and whatever, like they'd hang just fine. Or like they had a couple minutes to adjust. Like if you just drop dudes and like all right, y'all, the best players from the day and the best players from back in the day are playing a game. And like you give dudes a couple games or whatever to adjust, it's just like they're fine, right? It's just like the way they play is entirely different, though, right? There's not as many like dudes don't cross over like that for the most part. Like a lot of stuff that we have today, they were inventing back then. So like, and then there's Wilt, who he's Wilt fucking Chamberlain. He does stuff nobody does anymore. Like,
so real quick, Pistol Pete's stats are 24. 24, 4, and 5. 5 being the assist. And after that, real quick, I just want to put this out there. He's top 30 because he actually died in the gym, if I remember correctly. So, like, he really bought that action. He had a heart attack. But
I know.
Also, I remember seeing a documentary back in the day when I was a kid. But also, have you seen that footage, the HD footage of Wilt Chamberlain?
Yes.
Why are people in the comments disrespecting this man like that?
Look,
because for whatever reason, people assume that like dudes in the 50s and 60s couldn't hoop for real, right? And like that might be true if you're talking about like the 40s, right?
Yeah.
But, like once we start getting into the 50s, we start getting into dudes like we really care about, right? And like those dudes could hang with dudes today, a lot of them, right?
Wilt Chamberlain was a freak of an athlete, like legitimately a freak. And people are like, "Oh, he's shooting those bank shots. He's shooting." You know, the greatest power forward ever lived off bank shots in the 2000s. So I don't understand why people are so like being so ridiculous about this like weirdly colorized HD 4K version of Wilt.
Hey, and if you go back and watch like the angle and the fact that he was doing like fadeaways on these bank shots, that shit is ridiculous. That man was
From
7'1",
everywhere.
like 260. Like, no, that's crazy.
Listen,
From everywhere.
he was how tall? 7 whatever. And
Like
his
7'2", 7'3".
his hands touch his knees when he walks. That man had the longest arms I'd ever seen in my life. I'm like, how did they find clothes for this man as he grew up? Like, you know what I mean? Like his parents growing up had to be like, what the heck are we doing? Like, that's nuts. This man had to wear tank tops all day, even in the wintertime.
Hey, you're gonna be a professional athlete, dog. I'm not closing you. You go out there, you make your money some other type of way.
What?
Yeah,
You're gonna have your kid out there naked?
Allen Kid not going to the league.
Like,
What you mean? Looks like you either want to be naked or you going to the league. Up to you.
but like, if I'm naked during childhood, what?
Yeah.
We're all naked during childhood. There's moments like that.
During birth, not childhood. I don't know
So
what
you
kind
can
of
never
childhood
naked
you
during.
had, but what's wrong with you? I have no idea what kind of childhood you had, but that ain't it. That ain't it.
Bro, we all have to be naked during every period in our life. How do we get clean? Gotta
Not
be naked.
behind closed doors. What do you? Okay, anyway,
No, well,
I'm done talking about this.
Okay,
I'm
moving
done talking
on.
about this nonsense.
Moving on.
Yeah, I'm done talking about that. Okay, so is there anybody that you think people might take out of the top 50 that you want to argue that should stay solidified?
I am going to throw some names at you guys for that because I did click out a few people who I am not super familiar with, and then one person in particular that every chance I get, I am going to understand he is the godfather of modern day point guards, but them highlights don't always look good.
I don't know.
And I'm talking about Bob Cousy. I know he's gonna get grandfathered into the top 75, but I need him to be like 72.
Bob Cousy.
Bob Cousy.
Okay, let's look at Bob Cousy's stats real quick. Okay, so
13-time
overall,
All-Star, 6-time NBA champ, but only when they had like 8 teams. So
18
time
5 and
assist
7.
leader.
18 5 and 7 for career. Okay. Bob Cousy. I've seen Bob Cousy video. Listen,
Aye.
I understand that you're like as Alan said, you're like you were the foundation for what came after you. But just because you're the foundation don't mean like you need to stay at like that elite level.
Hold up. Let me see something right quick.
Bob Cousy was playing during the days where they would like go to halftime and smoke a cigarette and come back out.
right, so it's like it's cool that you can dribble real low, but
also I say that, but also like apparently in the NBA they're doing that in like the 80s too. So like you know what I mean? So like you saw first dance or last dance. Excuse me. You saw last dance when Michael Jordan said that the first year he arrived to the Bulls and he walked to the hotel rooms but couldn't tell the camera what they were doing in the hotel rooms. Like that was in the 80s. So like in the 40s you can only imagine what these dudes were doing on the road. You know what I mean? But even with that,
I mean, fairness, it was the 50s, and like, could they? Well, I don't know. That's insulting. I don't know what their contracts looked like. I'm gonna keep that to myself.
Yeah, I think a lot of these players, especially at this time, they had like other jobs. You know what I mean? Like basketball wasn't their job.
He did hang around long enough to where like I think they did start doing it like without needing other jobs right around the time again of the dudes we start caring about for real. Like what? Oscar Robertson, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Elgin Baylor, all of them.
Oh,
hey,
did you?
But like,
did you know this man
I'm
still
okay with-
alive?
most of these dudes are still alive.
He's 93.
Like most of these dudes are still alive.
I bet his knees are shot though.
I mean,
Because he was. God, how tall was he? I'm not sure how tall he was.
he like normal human height. He like 6'1" if we being nice.
He is 6'1" actually. He is 6'1", and they playing in chucks and they still running around. You know what I mean? They still shifting and
You know it was on concrete too.
Man.
There's concrete under that hardwood.
Oh my gosh, my knees hurt just thinking about that.
Can we go ahead and agree to bump George Mikan?
Maybe if I
so we get into Mikan. Let me read this sentence of how they describe Kuzi's game.
Okay.
Kuzi dribbled, shot, passed, and scampered.
Scamper?
That was the whole sentence?
That's not the whole sentence. That's just the excerpt that I want to talk about because the next part they make him feel good about winning the championship in 1950.
Scampered? They might as well say he pranced.
Right?
Scampered?
Like they described you like you were a bunny.
Huh. Yeah, weird.
Disrespectful, y'all. Don't do that.
I don't know about that. Also, to get back to George Mikan was 6'10" and did not average a double-double. So
yes, he did.
No, he didn't. He averaged
Mikan?
23 points, 9.5 rebounds, 2.8 assists.
Where are you getting that from?
I'm getting that from what is this, Basketball Stats?
Are you
Basketball
sure? Because I have completely different numbers right here.
BasketballReference.com.
23 and 13.
I got
George Mikan.
Was he in the ABA or anything?
No.
I got.
He played in the NBA from 48 to 56 when he came out of retirement for 1 year 55 when he came out of retirement for 1 year for reasons I don't know.
Wait, isn't Mikan the one who left to go become like an accountant? Because
I don't even know. Probably.
I don't know. About
it wouldn't even surprise me.
I have no idea about this man's personal life, but that's what my stats are saying. This is from BasketballReference.com.
Even if you just, because technically there's a league called the BAA, which I can't tell you anything about, but even just the NBA, 22 and 13 off 40% shooting.
Well, my stats must be wrong then. Yeah, well.
Let's reference a third one, just
to make sure. Yeah.
Hey, I got a question for y'all.
What's up?
If they didn't have the 24-second shot clock until like later.
Yeah.
Probably like later in the 50s. So, if they were playing when games were over, where it was like scores 19-18, when were the games where they were scoring like 20, like a game? Or were they going for like 7 in one game and then had to go for like 40 in another?
I mean, it was probably just like competitive spirit. You know what I mean? Just like get the ball into the hoop. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't because like they're athletes at the end of the day, so they're probably just like score as much as you can before so it's probably less defense. It's probably more like water polo than it is like basketball or like handball now than it is like basketball. You know what I mean? Where it's not allowed like passing the ball.
What years are we talking about here? I'm sorry.
These years, like 50s, 40s.
The super early years where, like, if you see some film from then, it's kind of that's kind of some ugly basketball. Like from I think when basketball like the 20s to like the 40s ish. Like it's ugly. Like they can kind of dudes can mess you up. Like defensively, like they can like tackle and stuff. Like not really tackle, but you get what I mean. Like so, like they did a lot of it was a really fast paced game, and they didn't have any of the fundamentals down.
Yeah, but Naismith created basketball. Just think about this: Naismith created basketball at the YMCA in 1891. So it didn't become a national thing, and Naismith didn't even make his way to like KU whatever until the 1920s, 1930s, whatever it is. So like that's not long for people to understand what this game could be. So like you really playing on a peach baskets, you know what I mean? And they're trying to turn into some kind of like actual competitive event, whatever. So once you get to like the 30s and 40s and 50s. You're like super early on in this sport's like development, so of course it's gonna be disgusting looking, but and then
I'm talking. Again,
Also,
what I'm
remember,
saying specifically is like 20s to 40s. 50s, it starts kind of looking like basketball as we know it today.
yeah,
Kind of.
because but also remember they didn't let black people play for a very, very long time. So of course the game had no swag. I mean, dead serious too. Like you had a bunch of like Irishmen from like factory jobs playing, and black people couldn't do nothing in sports. That wasn't their own. You know what I mean? So all of a sudden you let the black people in, and you see the heights that came through. You see the growth from 1891 to let's say 1940, right? You see the growth, whatever. You see video. Then check out the growth of that next 40 years after that, from 1940 to 1980, when you let the brothers in. That's all I gotta say. And Bob Cousy, you ain't gonna cut it. You gotta go.
All I'm saying is we should drop Mike in just because, like, while he is, like, kind of how, like, the modern big man was made, if you will, right? Like, it's still just kind of like you probably can't hang with dudes even, like, from even, like, 5 years after you retired.
So name one big man you're replacing him with. That's not
Dwight Howard.
That would not be on this list.
Dwight Howard.
Dwight Howard?
Actually, I'd be okay with that, actually.
Okay, Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard stats, according to Basketball Reference, Dwight Howard stats are, dang, he played a long time. 16, 12, and 1 for career. But, like, the heights of Dwight are larger. The heights of Dwight are larger heights than Mikan, right? But like Dwight also played a lot longer. But Dwight's last 5 years have really like beat up his career stats.
He also broke his back like 7 years ago. I'm just glad he's out here.
Did he break his back or get his back?
He had some sort of back. He had some sort of
What's
back problem. Wait, what?
You remember that?
It's both impacted discs. Like both of them.
Calvin, you get my joke, don't you?
Vaguely, like I feel like I know what it is, but like I'm not.
Get out of here, no. You know where this is going. Don't do it.
It's a family show. All right. But yeah, Dwight Howard had just.
Oh my God! I'm sorry. I just understood that. I was thinking something completely different.
He had the season 3 flashback.
Dwight Howard had. I mean, yeah, his last 5 years have really like, literally took like a beating to his stat, or last 2 years really. But his heights were way higher than Mikan's, though.
Yes.
But also like you can argue that the popularity of the game itself made that the case, though. So, like the game now is, or the game when Dwight was like at his peak and getting Orlando match to the finals and defensive player of the years, that height or the popularity of the game was not the same as obviously when Mikan was there. So that could add like a perception to it as well. But that's a tough say because you can't deny that Mikan's career stats are better than Dwight's.
I'll give you that from like a scoring standpoint and maybe production overall. I'll give you that.
Tim Duncan isn't on this list.
He was also a rookie in '96.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I was just looking at him.
So take Mikan now and put Duncan easy. That's a very easy one.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a very easy one.
When y'all asked that question, I was thinking of like the big man to come in after '96, who would be considered one of like the greatest players in their position of all time, and like Dwight Howard was one of the only people that came to my mind.
I mean, that's fair. Like I'm looking, there's another dude named Dolph Shays who played from 49 to 64. He played for a while, and like his numbers are fine, but he has no rings, and like. I don't know. I think he's an easy bump, and we can slide Dwight in there.
I mean, also, just saying this out here, you have a guy on there named Hal Greer who averaged 19, 5, and 4. He was 6'2", that you could probably replace with Dwayne Wade.
Oh yeah, easy.
I mean, I won't say easy. I've never seen this man play, but because this man,
kind of the thing.
This man, he was a 10-time All-Star, on the same team as Wilt Chamberlain, when he played for the 76ers.
Which means he has a ring too.
One NBA championship, and during that playoff run for that championship, he averaged 27 points a game. But I think Dwayne Wade averaged more when he played for the Heat, and him and Shaq when they went to the finals. So I think you could just replace Hal Greer with Dwayne Wade, probably.
Oh yeah, and the reason why I say if easy is because when we think about like shooting guards, like Dwayne Wade's what, top 5 easy?
I wouldn't even say top 5 easy. You could argue top 5, right? You can like argue top 5.
Some of that gets into like who do you consider a 3 as opposed to a 2?
I mean, so just to take the people that I think is 2s: Michael, Kobe, Reggie Miller. People forget how good he really was, right?
So you got Reggie Miller over Dwayne Wade.
I think you can make an argument.
I'm gonna disagree.
I think you make it easy. I think you make an argument that yes, but like, of course, championships and like pedigrees, all that's out the window if you're a shooting guard playing at the same time as Michael Jordan. Like all that's out the window because it just is unfair.
Clyde Drexler.
That's like playing. That's like being a small forward and playing at the same time as LeBron. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you're not gonna get the credit you should be getting. Clyde Drexler, who was much nicer than people get credit for, and then if you even want to go to you want to go to people that were like the combo guards, that makes it even more difficult. You know what I mean? Between point guard and shooting guard. But I think you can make an argument to put Dwayne Wade in top 5, but you make an easy argument to take him out of top 5 too. Because once again,
we only named like 4 dudes. And then we talked about like there are people like combo guards that make it a little uncomfortable. But like, my only
thing when we start talking about 2s and whatever, especially given like how we tend to think about things now, is like you kind of get into a question with a lot of players, especially like if they have long careers, right? Because dudes tend to kind of shift positions into positions where you don't have to move quite as much. Is like dudes that are like, because like a lot of the same people also like shifted down to like the 3 at some point. And so it's kind of like, who do you consider a 3 as opposed to a 2?
Okay, so listen, I just put in great shooting guards in the NBA. That's all I Googled, all right? That's all I Googled. And this is what it says. This is what it says. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, Allen Iverson. This is no any kind of order. Allen Iverson, Clyde Drexler, Reggie Miller, Allen Iverson, James.
You said Allen Iverson twice.
Oh, excuse me. My bad. James Harden, George Gervin, Tracy McGrady, Manu Ginobili, and then Steph or Clay, really, if you want, or more
Clay.
Okay, so Klay Thompson, and then you get to other people outside of that too, but that's right there. You know what I mean? So you could, once again, that's a lot of names that you can just like. They're all like top tier basketball players ever. You know what I mean? So like I think for most positions, outside of 1 and 2,
you can start debating.
1, you can argue.
In a lot of cases, yeah, you can start debating dudes.
Yeah, like Michael Jordan, shooting guard. Okay, we get it. LeBron James, small forward. Okay, we get it. Center, you can't do that. Power forward, people say Tim Duncan, but you can argue otherwise. But most people say Tim Duncan.
Malone.
And then point guard, you can argue all day too. You know what I mean? So like outside of LeBron and Michael Jordan, you can make arguments for a ton of people in every other position.
I feel like saying a ton is still a little out there, unless we talk about center. That's the only one where I feel like there's at least like 5 or 6 names.
Point guard is 5 or 6 names.
True.
Right? Most people would say Magic Johnson, but that's just because like, but like Magic Johnson can shoot. You know what I mean? So like, if you're like, because everybody who says Magic Johnson puts Magic Johnson up there for like the passing he would do with everybody else. But in today's NBA, he's Ben Simmons.
Ooh.
He didn't develop a 3-point shot.
But like he'd still be like aggressive Ben Simmons though, which is a much better version than what we currently got.
Granted,
so Like,
you're
an
100%
aggressive Ben Simmons is still pretty serious. He just never shows up.
You're 100% correct. He would be an aggressive Ben Simmons, much more aggressive Ben Simmons. But Magic Johnson, with that slow setup in today's NBA, I would argue that he wouldn't even have that jump shot, right? Because if they change Lonzo's ball shot, they're definitely changing Magic Johnson's shot. So I'd argue he wouldn't have the jump shot in the first place. But let's say he does, right? He isn't getting that shot off. But people put him up there because he will be able to facilitate to every other position. Now, today, to be a point guard in the NBA today, you got to be able to score and score heavy. You know what I mean? But also, you have to have some kind of passing ability. So, I personally think point guard and center are up in the air. Power forward, probably Tim Duncan. But definitely, once you hit 2, it's also up in the air. Because Karl Malone, if he didn't have John Stockton,
Magic Johnson would be Nikola Jokic today. Put that man at the floor and then work out the post.
No, Jokic is too heavy.
You let Magic do whatever he wants.
Exactly.
Magic did play center when they could punch you in the face, though.
Look.
So.
Look. So
that's facts.
There's this. I think. Wait, what was it? Because he bet. Okay, so I'm probably mixing up stories, but my dad tells a story about. I think it was like one of Magic's first finals or whatever. Thinking about some of the stuff my dad talked about with it, and I think he said Kareem got hurt and Magic played every position.
Yes.
And my dad was hot because I think he had bet money on this stuff or something, and it's just Magic just did everything.
Listen. Today in the NBA, there is, and I mean efficiently, there is one player who could do that efficiently, and that's LeBron James. Giannis could not do that. Who's a super mobile outside of that?
KD?
Kevin Durant wouldn't be he's not a point guard, right?
I would let him run an offense.
Kevin Durant can pass the ball, but Kevin Durant's not a point guard.
True.
Right? He can give you a solid chest pass, but he's not doing point guard skillful passes and all kind of stuff, right? That elite point guards do. LeBron James is the only person in the NBA, arguably in the last arguably since Magic Johnson, who could be 1 through 5 and efficient in all of it. And he's done it probably in some games that we don't pay attention to as much because it's LeBron and he probably does it more times than we realize. But it's nuts.
I'm almost sure he's done.
You could probably get away with it with Jordan, but it's just you don't want Jordan doing that. So
yeah, but you couldn't get away with it playing Jordan though, because do you want Jordan guarding Hakeem Olajuwon?
You don't, but it'd be fun to see him try.
Oh, it'd be. We've all seen that little clip of Shaq in warm-ups putting the move on. And Shaq was not Hakeem when it came to the footwork, right? Shaq, LeBron, big LeBron, Miami Heat LeBron, I'm okay if he tries to guard prime Shaq. He couldn't do it, but I'd rather have him out there than anybody else. You know what I mean? Michael Jordan, he ain't guarding prime Shaq in the post like that.
Someone's guarded. That's a fool's errand, though.
But Magic, Shaq, sure. But Lakers,
if
Shaq,
you want Magic to foul out, sure, do that.
But Magic and LeBron are the only two who can efficiently do it all the way through, which is a legendary story. Just like how, that's legendary. But the fact that Larry Bird played a whole game left-handed because he was saving his right hand for the next team is an undertold legendary story. No one knows this story, and I think it's one of the most incredible things I've ever heard in my life from a basketball player who I don't know, it's mind-boggling.
I feel like it's more disrespectful than anything because why?
It's why incredibly disrespectful. That sounds like some stuff out of an anime. Right? You just fight the whole fight and you have him on the rope and it's just I'm not even left-handed though.
Yeah. Speaking of which, if you guys watch Kuroko's basketball, it is literally like watching the greatest NBA players of all time on a separate Like, it's incredible. Just go watch it.
We are now way off from what we were talking about, but that show annoys me mostly because I feel like there's not enough real basketball in it. All these dudes are basketball superheroes.
Exactly. It's like a fighting anime with basketball. It's the most incredible thing.
Like, a dude's out here able to drop shots from the other end of the court because he has a good luck charm. Like, what kind of mess is that?
Hey, bro.
Like, the best passer just doesn't register on anybody's, like, radar. Like, he's just around and nobody notices him. And, like, that's his thing. Like, nobody notices him, and he can make all kinds of crazy passes. But, like, it wears off as the game goes
on. Bro, because I can see how passionate you are.
It's fun, but it annoys the shit out of me.
Calvin hurt right now. I felt the hurt in your voice. He's the best passer. He's the best passer.
But you can't start him. Like, we're getting off topic. Back to the task at hand. I'm sorry. We should just do a pod that's just like we have it on layaway for like a dead period or something. Like about this stuff.
Yeah, you're not wrong. We should. We definitely should.
I'm down.
All right. Back to the task at hand.
Guys, Bill Sharman.
Okay. You said what?
Bill Sharman.
Stats?
You're joking, right? Hold up.
Stats?
Let me pull up the stats. But
Bill Sharman. If he played now, there'd be so many jokes.
Look, I was thinking of him the entire time we were talking about. I haven't seen anything higher than a season where he averaged, I want to say 22 points is the highest I've seen from him. Trying to look at career stats.
I mean, look at some of the numbers from percentages from back in the day. He was knocked down though. So, and knocked it down from the line, but 4-time NBA champ because he played with Russell and Sam Jones.
It's a lot of Celtics that gotta go.
But he could go though. He was probably like the number 2 scorer. I think Sam Jones was probably the number 1, and Russell was their number 3.
All right.
Like you start looking at the numbers.
So what are Sharman's stats?
Over the course of his career, he averaged 17 points, 3 assists, 3.9 rebounds, off 42% shooting, and 88% from the stripe.
All right. My man was a 6'1" shooting guard, by the way. I think Bill Sharman got to go.
I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, I'm not
just
mad.
Replace him with other 6'1" shooting guards who go crazy, like Steph.
Allen Iverson. All right. Easy. All right. Now we have Wes Unseld. Now.
I think Wes stays.
Hold on. I'm thinking he stays too. Now. Wes Unseld, he averaged 10, 14, and 3. But he is only the second rookie ever to win league MVP his rookie year.
Who's the first person?
Him and Wilt
Probably.
Chamberlain.
Oh, okay. I would have thought it was Robertson.
Nope, Wilt Chamberlain was the other one to do it. And that's how he did his in 1969.
I got questions now. Hold up, but continue. I'm just about to look stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, just a few notable moments about this man. His biggest moment came in 1978 when he and Hall of Famer Elvin Hayes led the Bullets to the NBA championship. So that's top 50 in his own right. You know what I mean? Leading the Bullets / Wizards to the championship. Okay. And they beat the Seattle Supersonics. And then the other notable thing is the MVP rookie year. But his numbers aren't fantastic for a career. But I think he was really impactful in other ways. Yeah. Also, crazy durable.
Hey, them rebounding numbers are ridiculous, though. Especially early in his career.
Yes.
Basically 19 rebounds for the first 3 years.
16, 19, 17, 18, 16. Yeah, that's nuts.
And I also heard he was so strong he could just squeeze your head like a grape.
Unseld?
Yeah. Google it.
I ain't running into him.
I'm not about to. All I know is that nobody was trying to fight Chamberlain. So
That's
Why
true. Listen,
would you?
so what?
Why would you?
You're right.
I don't know what there was
might catch something.
like what there was like a super short like documentary about Chamberlain or whatever. I don't remember who it was they were talking about, but there was a team and one of the dudes who was on it like apparently started a lot of fights, but he said like we had like 82 games and we had 82 fights. And like there was one dude who's like their forward or whatever. I think he's listed like 6'9", right? And he was gonna start mess with Chamberlain, and like Chamberlain just like picks him up and just like okay. And then he goes back to his team's like, why didn't y'all help me? It's just like it's Will Chamberlain. Are you stupid?
Like the biggest dude on the team, and he picked you up. What am I gonna do?
Like, but some of them forwards though back in the day were kind of serious though. Like in terms of like you start talk about like how strong dudes were and stuff.
Yeah, that cornbread
Let's
strength.
see.
That black eyed peas strength.
Look, Wes Unseld looked like he got black eyed peas strength. Like that man was helping out on somebody's farm in the off season.
A week. Oh, you ain't joking.
This is
That boy big.
Wait, why that man country fed? Oh no, I'm good. I'll walk the other direction. I'm not gonna lie.
Was never worried about nutrition.
No, he just smack you around. What you say?
Not the big dog. It's good. It's good.
See, what did Dave Bing do? But aside though, like you, what's his name? Sam Bowie, right? The dude they picked before Jordan, who like couldn't stay healthy to save his life once he like got out of high school.
Yeah.
But like, what on like the 30 for 34? And there was a story where like the All-American game, right? His year, like there was some dude, I do not remember Buddy's name. Doesn't really matter. Like he came and like while they were practicing, whatever, he saw Sam Bowie and like it demotivated him so much that he like retired from basketball and became a farmer.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
that's sad.
well, the thing is, apparently Bowie, aside from injuries, Bowie was actually cold. He just couldn't stay, especially like once he started getting into like college, he just kept getting hurt.
Oh,
Right.
So Greg Oden got you.
Basically, yeah.
Wasn't
Like
it the Portland
same
team?
basic thing, huh?
It's Portland too, right? Who took Sam Bowie?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Portland always Portland got the worst luck.
Like
Portland got the worst luck. They had Sam Bowie. They had Sam Bowie. They had Greg Oden and Roy Hibbert in the same franchise. That's
wait, Roy Hibbert was a Trailblazer?
not Roy Hibbert, but Brendan Roy. Excuse me,
Okay, that's what I thought.
Brendan Roy. But
Hey, Calvin just checked you. That's what I thought.
No. I'm just like, wait, that doesn't sound right.
I appreciate it because if I just kept going, I was gonna sound stupid. We on YouTube.
Hey,
Um,
Calvin, to get back to your guy Dave Bing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's gonna make it.
I'm looking at that too, but like,
Hey, they nicknamed this man in a sports magazine called Sport. They call this man Mr. Unsung About. I don't think he's making it. Just
like
based off voters, if he was forgettable in his own time, where he was scoring 27 points his second year in the league, we definitely gonna forget about him too.
he played. So I think the issue here for him is, so he played in 6 playoff series his entire career. All right, he was only in the playoffs 5 times over the course of what, about a decade-ish?
Yeah, 9 years.
Yeah, like 9 years in the league. But like his team, who was the Pistons, didn't do anything. Right? It's that whole thing with like, toiling away in obscurity, right? Like what's
So
it?
Jeremy Grant's last season?
No, I think this is closer to being Bradley Beal than like Jeremy Grant, because Jeremy Grant chose Detroit, right? He wanted a bigger role. He took it for the same money, which like I don't really understand, but long as he's happy. But like no, I feel like this is closer to being like Bradley Beal, where it's like everybody recognizes that you're cold, but your teams don't really do anything.
Question.
What?
Are we allowed to put Gilbert Arenas in the top 50? Gilbert Arenas averaged 20, 20.7, so 21 essentially. 20, 4, and 5. And I'm just going to put this out there. James Worthy, who's in there, averaged 17, 3, and 1. Or, excuse me, 17, 5, and 3. And shot a worse percentage from almost everywhere except field goal. And Gilbert Arenas had higher more skills. Can Gilbert Arenas go with the top 50 players of all time?
I mean, I think you can make the argument, but you're gonna I would make the argument you bump somebody who's not worthy. Granted, I think part of the argument for why Worthy is like a Hall of Fame or what have you is just like longevity. Like he was solid for a really, really, really long time in basketball years.
Yeah.
Was he?
I think I haven't looked at his stuff in a while.
You talking about James Worthy?
Yeah.
Okay, James Worthy wasn't them dudes. He just was with the Lakers for so long that it doesn't look like it because he had to share the ball with lots of other Hall of Famers.
I don't care what it looked like.
And his college team was full of Hall of Famers too. Let's not forget this.
Yeah,
like
that's. Go ahead.
No, I'm just like he's the dude. Like you kind of forget about him just because all the dudes he ended up like playing with were like top 25 all time, right? Like, or like even like top 10, all like a lot of like top 10 all time dudes and stuff. It's just, and so like he's there, he's good, but like he's not the first dude you think of,
right? And I think that's something we're going to run into like the issue with, like how many of these dudes are going to stay because of legacy. Like George Mikan has a rule created where like that's the reason why the lane is 12 feet.
And like he's got a drill named after him. Like some of that is just impact with him.
Right. So I wonder like if that's gonna be the case when we like done sorting everything out, where we have like a few dudes on this list where we're like, well, I know who could toast you. Like I already know who could give you buckets.
Well, people are about to destroy this list when it comes out. Like when this new list comes out, people are going to dissect it to the 10th degree.
Ooh, I might have to stay off YouTube for like a week.
Like, no, we can do this and then we can adjust it when we can discuss the actual list when it does come out, right?
Yes, we should.
But like I think the thing you would do, right? Because like you do want to give respect to impact in terms of like changing the game and whatever, and like which I think you should, right? But like because some of it's like no, like dudes in your era weren't doing these things, and dudes are only doing these things because you were there to do it first, right? So like in that respect, if we start talking about like leaving dudes in for impact, right? Then like we kind of have to put Mike in back. I think you probably leave Gervin. You almost certainly leave like Irving. You have to have Steph in there. Like you have to. Who else? Just like
wait, you mean like you said rule changes? You got Steph in there, yeah, but like with these guards nowadays, they're changing rules every single year because the guards are trying to find ways to run the rules, right?
But like it's not like but like a lot of those rule changes aren't really about like revolutionizing how the game is played. It's just like the way you're doing things is boring to watch.
I'd argue that the rule change they made this year is compared to if you watch this upcoming season and watch last season of the 3-point shooter stopping on a dime around the screen and having the man run into them for them to chuck a 3 up that changed the game. Like it literally changed how guards played the game.
And that's James Harden's thing.
That's all James Harden. That along with the pump fake and jump into the man when he's off the ground. That's all James Harden. So I would say James Harden changed the rules of the game.
Like
foul chasing, but still.
It's like I feel like the issue with that one though, opposed to like a lot of other like things we talk about. Like I'm not even talking about like rule changes specifically, just like how people play the game of basketball, right? And like the thing with that one though was kind of like it's as opposed to like talking about like Steph, where it's like people start like taking threes like that, right? Or like Mikan, who like modern version of the big man, like first modern version of the big man. Or I think we mentioned Kuzi a while back, like first kind of quote unquote modern-ish point guard. Is that like it's not so much about like, oh, you change rules for them. It's just like they were the prototype, right? You're not like the reason you try and emulate like James Harden's gaming of the rules is less because like, oh, this is just something I love to do. I love getting dudes to foul me and just like the refs reward this behavior.
Well, I would say
right. This isn't good basketball.
Yeah, but I'd argue that playing bad basketball and it being accepted is changing the fundamentals of basketball.
Like was it ever really accepted though?
Yeah, it was. If you watch these AAU teams play and you watch these kids growing up and you just go to a random pickup game, it changed everything. Just like how Steph changed the game of when it's a transition three. It's a transition and it's 2-on-1 and you shoot a three instead of getting a layup. Just how that changed the fundamentals of basketball. Foul chasing, which is James Harden, changed how basketball was played. Now the other guys are foundations, right? The basketball was was a younger sport, right? At that time, but James Harden and Steph Curry changed like the strategy of the game, and I think that's like something that can only come along once the game starts to become more complex.
Like I would make the argument like Harden can probably yeah, I think Harden's maybe. Like, I think you can make the argument that Harden probably should be on the list, but like I don't think this is why though. Like the foul thing isn't why, huh?
You guys are nerds. This is a nerdy basketball conversation. This is a nerdy basketball conversation.
Like in my head, I was like, I wonder how this sounds out loud. I really was thinking that as we started talking. I was like, yeah, because we like getting like in the nooks and crannies of like a lot. But thanks for pointing it out. I appreciate that. But I mean, I don't even right now, at this very moment, Calvin, I think you're
right. Like I low-key want to leave it in there because this is hilarious.
I thought this man was just smiling. I was like, why you your cheeks don't hurt yet? Like that's really what I thought. I was like, why you smiling so hard? But Alan, do you think right now that you could put James Harden in the top 50 right now before he's done anything else?
Okay, so I'm a little hesitant to drop him off in the top 50. There are guys that I could consider him better than, or at least like his resume speaks louder than, let's say, Hal Greer's. Like, sure, there might be like some championships, but if we're just based off all-stars, who's scored the most points by this point in their career,
yeah,
I think James Harden has like the credentials to square up with a lot of these dudes. I think when we get into terms like greatness, that's where we got to look at people's perception of that player. And because he doesn't have that championship, people will be hesitant. But now, considering that the list is going to be top 75, I think Harden should be there.
They're turning it to the top 75 list?
You kind of have
as opposed to 50.
I mean, the next one coming up is the top 75 list.
Okay.
So I am worried about two things, and I hope when I get to the first one, I'll still remember the second one.
Hmm.
So I'm worried about two things that we've kind of, talked about in a roundabout way so far. One of them being when all these, since like back in the day, they didn't have all these analytics. So to come up with this list, they're going to try and do as much analytics with back in the day as they did now, as like they kind of do now. I'm assuming, right? So with that being the case, how dependent on like those impact players that we just talked about that created an impact in the game, how much of those players get pushed to the wayside because their analytics might not stand up to somebody in like a current day. So that's one. Before I forget, before you guys respond, that's one thing. Two, another thing I worry about is the league has turned into, and I mean turned into like the last like 20 years, right? Of we are trying to make it more offensively fluid. We are trying to make the league more fun, quote unquote, fun to watch, right? So the viewer falls in love with the scoring aspects of it. So, a lot of us have grown up during this time, so a lot of us think about scoring before they think about any other stat, really, right? Points per game, whatever. So when people look at this list, I'm kind of worried that people are going to be like, no, so-and-so should be in this list because he scored more points. You know what I mean? Because, like, if you start using that, like, Tracy McGrady's in there. You got, like, James Harden. And you don't think about other things, but you start doing these really, really good scores. And then I wonder, like, how that balances with the impact guys who might not have scored as much. You know what I mean?
So, I think two things. One, like, the people who just think scoring aren't the dudes in charge of the list. So I'm not super concerned about that. At least I hope none of the people making the decisions are like that. Because that's going to make for a very incorrect list. Because there are dudes who got buckets, but people like, even though they got buckets, this other dude is better than them or whatever. Right? It's kind of accepted stuff. But also, like, I think when you're going to look at it, like, yeah, you should like go ahead and look at the analytics. We have better information to like learn more about players than we did when they were playing. But like you also have to look at it against like what the rest of the league was looking like at the time, right? Because it's like the way the game was played was different, right? Like if we start talking about like Julius Erving, for example, right? It's not fair to hold the fact that like dudes weren't chucking threes like that back in the day against him when you start looking at this. Right?
Yeah.
And like you kind of have to have some of that understanding as you like go through it. Right? And also and like try to account again, like you said, for the heavier focus on scoring and how like the rules are officiated and the rules that are in place. And like some of that is gonna come down, and admittedly, like some of like even who like comes out of that after you like do all of that is going to be like some of that's gonna be, personal preference and whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like if I was in charge, I would preference dudes who had better all around games, just because like I don't know, it's a game, you might as well play the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So like and it's like I think the people who make those decisions will bring that understanding to it. At least I hope so. Right? And they're not like
also because I'm just like, I don't know, because we see lists every single year of just trash. We just see trash lists every year that someone comes out with, right? That people even if it's a good list, people will disagree with it. And then like I don't know. I guess I'm more curious than anything of how they're going to approach this list, right? Because the first 25 years ago one, when they had 50, they had a whole like celebration and jackets were given away and all these different things, right? So I wonder if this year is going to be somewhat of the same thing. Because people can't even decide. Some people have Kobe as their number 2 player of all time, and some people have Kobe as number 15. So I also wonder if it's going to be like chronologically ordered, or is it going to be just like, here are the top 75? You know what I mean? Like, all this stuff makes a difference, and I don't know how they're combating this or how they're spearheading this.
Yeah.
So if I was,
My bad, Calvin. I don't think we're going to. I don't think it's going to be like that because I don't think the original top 50 was like by number. I think they're just going to give people jackets and give them their respects and give them their flowers and whatnot. And to answer your question before, I mean, if those people really love scoring as much as they make it seem like the rest of us do, James Harden will have multiple MVPs. Like, that man averaged 36 and he didn't get it that year. So I don't think it's gonna be that much of a struggle. And as far as like the analytics debate, I think if they try to use the analytics debate, that's when we're gonna be looking at like George Mikan and being like, it's cool that you changed that rule, but this don't look good for you, my friend. So I think we're gonna have to go eye test on a lot of what happens here.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe there'll be some like cultural relevance that will bump some people up. Like I always think AI should get a little bit more of a boost than what he normally gets because of what he's done for the game. Everybody got an AI crossover.
That's true. AI should get a boost, and I think it helps. I think it's helped that AI has been out of the league as long as he has now, because AI, listen, there were so many AI lovers now that people tend to forget how many AI haters there were for a long time. And the AI haters for when he played for the Nuggets, when he played for Memphis, when he played for all these different teams.
I mean, he kind of just sat in the jersey for us. Like, let's.
Oh, he got that in Jersey, yes, but like he said in Jersey because like he was getting hated on, and it was the end of his career, and he's turned to that journeyman type of role player. You know what I mean? Towards the end of his career, and I think toward when that was going on, people started to put AI further down their like list, but then like he's been away from the game so much now that, or for so long now, excuse me, that I think that people not only think you only hear about his 76ers days. That's it. And you rarely hear about the time he played with Iguodala. Like you hear about a specific timestamp of his career, and I think that just by like public perception makes him higher in this list than he would have 8 years ago. Which I'm not mad about because I think people take into consideration the last couple of years of everybody's career too harshly. You know what I mean? Because these guys are competitors. These guys are trying to, hold on to straws that aren't there anymore at the end of the career. Everybody's not LeBron, right? Most people have an end of the career year like Paul Pierce or like, Kevin Garnett when he went back to Minnesota or something like that. You know what I mean? That's how usually careers work, a.k.a. Allen Iverson. But, I think people need to stop taking those back end years into consideration as much as they do.
So I think the thing with that is like recency bias, right? Yeah. Recency bias. The closer it is, the more we tend to weight it. It's just a fallacy in human thinking. And like the thing is, as we get further away from like AI's career, for example, you don't have the recency bias. You can start looking at it a little bit more objectively and like how it ranks with other careers, right? And how good he was relative to other players. And like part of why I guess there's a tendency for a while anyway to take those back end careers. To weight the back end of those careers as heavily is like, again, recency bias, right? Like a lot of people don't take Dwight Howard as seriously as it's like being like an all timer. It's like they are, but they exist.
Oh, they definitely exist. But the people I joke about Dwight Howard all the time. But the people that truly joke about Dwight Howard don't remember his Magic days were the Dwight Howard first trip to the Lakers, right? With him, Kobe, Steve Nash. pre that Dwight Howard was ridiculous. Like legitimately ridiculous. And I think a lot of it is look at his numbers. His numbers were like really good. But you had to see it. Like this man was a center in the NBA and took his team to the NBA finals essentially.
I actually have a question. This is something I'm thinking about. Can you name like more than 3 players on that team?
Yes. Rashard Lewis, Hedo Turkoglu, Jamir Nelson.
Mikael Pietrus, Vince Carter, Rayford Alston.
What? I think you're just saying names now.
No.
Those people.
All guys are on that team.
Hedo Turkoglu was
it's like
I could go deep. Like that was my favorite team.
Well, maybe I'm just not that familiar with that particular roster because I could just think of like Jamir Nelson, and I was iffy on Turkoglu, and I'm just like I'm not sure who else played on that team.
Listen, Rashard Lewis played on that team. Rashard Lewis was really nice. Jamir Nelson got injured, then came back, and I argue that's the reason that they lost because of chemistry issues. Because he was out, and they were killing they were killing while he was out. He comes back in the finals and can't play the way he played. I think he was either like a near All-Star or an All-Star that year, and he couldn't
reserve,
and he couldn't play to the level of like where he was because he just came off injury. But the chemistry was all messed up. But I specifically remember Hedo Turkoglu had 4 or 5 years of him being like a name people remembered, and that was only because of Dwight Howard and that team.
In steroids.
Was he on steroids?
Yeah, he was juicing all those years, apparently. Or at least he only got caught for the one. But
he was nice. It don't matter. I don't matter. Juice Turkoglu. He was nice though. But I actually do remember that team very well actually, because like I had started watching NBA in 2008, like actively almost every game, or almost every day of the season. Excuse me. But that was like 2010, correct? Yeah, 2010. And once again, Dwight Howard was like a phenom because that was around the time he was doing a dunk contest and all kinds of like Dwight Howard was like on a different level of like popularity then. So like since then you don't watch Magic games, you know what I mean? But like that was the best that Magic had been since Penny Shaq.
True. Calvin, it seemed like you wanted to say something. Go ahead and finish up.
What did I want to say? I barely remember now. It's just, but like, in fairness, right? The Magic probably could have been a decent team by now, but like, as with all teams that are garbage for forever and a day, management sucks. Like, I'm just gonna chalk it to management.
Yeah, in a lot of mismatched parts. Like I see what their draft philosophy is. It just don't work. But I want to add something in for like a little closing period. I want to do this round robin.
Mm-hmm.
Dark horse names that we're going to see on this top 75. Like we already know LeBron gonna be on here. We know Kobe gonna be on here. We know some guys who are going to be shoe-ins. We're talking about dark horses, and I low-key want to make this a challenge. So I am going to go first, and we're going to do this round robin. You get 30 seconds. You get 30 seconds to go ahead and go through your mind.
Okay.
Say the name of the player. You can tell us why if you want to, but we're trying to make this short. We're going to make it quick. My first guy, and I'm going to cheat because I already said his name earlier, Dwight Howard. Defensive impact, the way he rebounds. I get that we might joke about what he has become, but that man might be a backup center, but when he is in games, he is still somewhat of a defensive force. Like the Lakers would not have won. The Lakers would not have won that title without Dwight.
Nah.
That's my guy.
Is that really a dark horse pick though? That feels like a safe one to me.
Those last few years might be enough to where some people it's like
fairness. Like I don't know how long your career has to. Like in fairness, I don't know how long your career has to be. Like as an active player to qualify for these, but like
Michael Jordan was in the original one, 25 years ago. Yeah, he was in the league. No, he was in the league for like what 10 years at that point, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, the only one who had like a baby amount of time in the league was Shaq. But Shaq was also like putting people in his armpit and then dunking and then farting on them as he landed. So he was being disrespectful.
But like, as far as like someone who I think would be a dark horse, just because like of how people tend to perceive them at this point, would probably be Westbrook.
Ooh.
Right? Because like, of course, like he outside of like Oscar Robertson, he's the only person to like average a triple-double over a season. He's done it multiple times. And like people will come at him because like he's not the best shooter in the world. And like people tend to, and like I've seen like people kind of question his basketball IQ from time to time. But it's just like he's kind of an all-around force. A lot of his teams would not have been as good as they were if he was not who he was. And like we can sit here and be like, okay, like he doesn't always make the best decisions. He has a tendency to like go into hero ball and whatever, but it's also just kind of like he's kind of who he is. One, just because like he's kind of dude, like he just wants to win, and so he feels like the best way to do that is for him to produce in general. And especially right after, you get rid of like Harden and then Durant leaves, it's just kind of like hero ball's about all he's got left. And he'd already gotten pretty good at it. So like it's just like at a certain point it's like this is what has won me basketball games. This is the reason my teams have not sucked. And so like I feel like his impact is because of those tendencies that you can kind of see. It's like his actual impact is downplayed in terms of like when you actually put him on the court and have him play basketball. And in fairness, I think we will see like people's opinion of him probably start to go up playing with the Lakers because he's going to have, just a better team around him than he's tended to have. Even if, like, granted, he did play with Harden for, like, that, 1 year, 2 years?
Calvin, I love you, but your 30 seconds are up, my friend.
Fair. But I've made my case pretty much, so.
Okay, so mine's going to be Paul Pierce.
Ooh.
It was going to be Ray Allen, but then Paul Pierce averaged better numbers in every category except three-point shooting than Ray Allen. Even assists by 0.1. Paul Pierce also was part of the team that brought the last championship to the Celtics, so there's a Celtic bias to it. Paul Pierce was like the originator, not the originator, but he was in the original like modern day Big Three format. Because I think Kevin Durant, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce all have a chance to be in it, to tell you the truth. The only reason that I call him a dark horse is because of his antics the last like year and a half, 2 years, whatever, which I don't think should matter whatsoever. But because everybody has a phone now, but if you want to talk about antics, we got guys in there from the 70s and the 80s, so relax. But yeah, I think Paul Pierce, he averaged 19.5 and 4, 3.5. So his stats line up with some of the stats we talked about earlier. He had a championship. He played for the Celtics. He's in the Celtics Hall of Fame. So more than likely, if you're in the Lakers Hall of Fame or the Celtics Hall of Fame, you have a strong chance of getting in. But I do think he's a dark horse of an opportunity to get in.
Okay, back to me. I am going to say this, and I am ready for all of your jeers. Rudy Gobert. I'm probably going to go all big men. Listen to me. I'm probably going to go all big men on this. You mean to tell me he been with them almost 10 years and since like actually become a rotation player, one of the best defenses every single year. There's always some like low-key dudes that we're a little shaky about. And when we're talking about greatest, he has the awards to kind of like get us there. Not really an all-star talent, not super good, but defensive player of the year just about every single year. And I really should have just came up with one guy because I don't think I'm gonna be able to make 3 people. So my answer is Rudy Gobert.
Okay. It's just like it's that I can see the argument. I feel like he's probably not going to be in it, but like that's the whole point of a dark horse, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, there.
I'm speechless. Rudy Gobert.
Rudy Gobert.
Oh, so like you just want to do like hot takes then, not people we legitimately think.
Well,
no, people we legitimately think.
But like we're not confident they'll be on there.
Going to come up.
You tripping then.
I think his name's going to come up. He's going to be like number 85. Where people were like, oh no, he's like, nah, he's just outside. You look at the VIP like, ooh, it'd be nice in there. But it will be. You wouldn't know.
I don't want to talk about this no more. How upset I am right now at you. Calvin, you got another one?
I'm trying to think, right? Because I'm going through my head. Like, give me. Go ahead.
Excuse me. My second one was Ray Allen. I think Ray Allen's going to get in there. Ray Allen, or he's a dark horse chance of getting in there. Very similar numbers to Paul Pierce. All-time leading 3-point shooter. I don't know, he might get passed up by Steph by the time this list comes out. And he has 2 championships, one with the Heat and one with the Celtics. So I think he has a chance of getting there. And the Heat don't win that game if he does not hit that shot. So he's vital in both those championships. So I think he has a chance of getting in there also.
Okay.
I got one more if you're ready.
I just thought of one.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, this one. All right. Draymond Green.
Out.
Look, you knew it was coming from somebody.
I did. I almost said it.
Anybody on this podcast.
Look, if we start talking about weighting impact and whatever, right? In terms of like how defense gets played, right? Talking about emphasizing dudes who can like defend 4 or 5 positions, right? That's Draymond Green, and like yes, he was also with other revolutionary players, right? But that wouldn't even be unique to dudes on the list, right? But like he can, but as a defender in particular, he's revolutionary in terms of like how defenses play and like by extension, like the kind of lineups you could put out on the floor, right? Small, like before, like the Warriors and Green, like small ball wasn't a thing, right? Dudes like Draymond were considered tweeners and like tended not to last in the league, right? But you have Draymond, who is a really high IQ player, who's a good passer, who like your all-time great shooters can like play off of to get their open shots. And like he's the dude who like you can kind of just have him guard anybody, right? And that allows you to hide, allows you to hide Steph, right? In a way like you couldn't if you didn't have him, right? And when he's not there. And so like his would be admittedly much more on like impact than like the numbers, right? Like he's got some accolades, but like it's mostly an impact thing.
That's not the numbers.
And he could guard Prime Shaq.
I'm gonna smack
you. You would put him on Prime Shaq. Shaq would eat him alive the same way he ate up everybody else. But you could put him there, and like he wouldn't completely embarrass himself.
Yeah, he would.
Not completely.
He's 6'8". Shaq was 7'2" in 100 more pounds, and like strong. Not Draymond strong. Shaq was like my daddy was in the military strong. Like he's country strong with the country. Like, listen, y'all both had a wild ones. So let me get my last one out here so I can get a little wild on you. Because I can't get wild. Manu Ginobili.
I'm not.
Manu Ginobili. Now, Manu Ginobili, in my opinion, is crazy overrated. In my opinion.
Overrated?
Yes, in my opinion. Right? I've always thought this, whatever. But he's going to get on there for 2 reasons. One, that Argentina national team was ridiculous, right? So that scenario. Also, they have to have a certain number of foreign players. And I mean, and outside of Dirk, you really can't like solidify like Dirk and Kukoc are like the solidified ones, right? That like if you're gonna choose or Pau Gasol, excuse me, right? Not Mark, sorry Calvin, but Pau. Those are like
That's
the ones that like,
understandable.
come to mind immediately, right? Of like overseas players that like had like full blown careers, incredible impact.
I mean, they were
Or
both
like,
Grizzlies at one point.
Hakeem Olajuwon from Africa and all kinds of stuff too, right?
Mhm.
But Manu Ginobili, in terms of impact for a place, is up there. Also, he's a Spur during the Spurs dynasty. So Tim Duncan's going to be in there. But Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker have an opportunity to be there just because they play for that Spurs team. That's the only reason why.
I really rock with Tony being on that list. And let me look up my next person to make sure he's not already on this. Okay. My next one is Gary Payton.
Was he on the original one? Was he on the original one?
No, he was not.
You think he's gonna be on this one?
Well,
if we go top 75, I think he's somewhere in there top 75.
Okay.
There's an argument. One of the only guards to win Defensive Player of the Year. Just about a 9-time All-Star. Let me click on Gary Payton to make sure.
Yeah,
9-time All-Star, 2-time All NBA, 5-time second team, 2-time All, 2-time third team, non-defensive player of the year. I mean, not non-defensive players, but all defensive teams. Up there in steals leaders? I think he got it. I think there's plenty of enough room. Almost a 20-point per game score for his entire year. And, if you want to be lame, he got the NBA championship.
Almost because you round up. But those, like, post-1994 Sonic numbers he's putting up were, like, nice. Like legitimately, like, nice for anybody in any era. They're, like, legitimately nice. So I can see that for sure. I'm surprised on
24-9.
Say again?
He had a year where he averaged 24-9.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised not in the original one.
Original one?
I'm probably surprised not on there, but because he was a menace. So
yeah, but he was still like really young. Like
yeah, that's true. He came to like a 90.
Yeah,
that's true.
And he didn't get his first All-Star until like 90. I want to say like 97 is what I looked up.
Yeah, that's actually a really good choice, though. I'm gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I'm okay with not being right. It's dark horse, baby. Don't matter to me. Calvin, you got number 3?
I do. This one feels much less dark horse, and I'm okay. So like I feel like this one will probably be on the list, even though like I'm less convinced on whether or not he should be. But in fairness, this one is going to sound a lot safer. Paul George, right? But like, I think some of that would be like recency bias, right? Just like we have him here now and we can witness his greatness, and like, it's not like he doesn't have the numbers, but like relative to other dudes, of course, some of that, like he doesn't have a ring. In fairness, he's had deep playoff runs and everything. The hesitation is just because, like, I don't know why, but like, I feel like you start like lining dudes up, I don't think he makes the list. Right? There's like, on the whole, there's not a whole lot of impact there, and like, there are a lot of dudes who have similar numbers and more success.
Yeah. But yeah, just like you said though, I think you could say he won't make the list just because of recency bias as well. Like he might make it because of recency bias, but he might not make it because of the whole playoff pandemic P rhetoric. So recency bias as well. You know what I mean? But like I'm looking at his numbers. The last 6 years, he's averaging crazy numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. That 2018 year for the Thunder, those are crazy numbers.
Almost won MVP.
Oh, that was that year, wasn't it?
Yep. And Calvin, I like your list in a little bit of a redundant. I think that's. I don't really care. I'm not about to use fancy words. I made a mistake when I said Gary Payton's first All-Star game wasn't until '97. It is actually '94. But hey, it is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, one of the guys I wanted to add on the list to kind of piggyback off what Calvin was saying was Kawhi Leonard, but I feel like he's a bit of a shoe-in.
I feel like he'll probably be on the list. I couldn't guarantee it, but like
Yeah.
it feels like it's definitely a safer pick than saying Paul George, for example.
Yeah, he feels top 50 to me as far as like defense, and then what? Probably over like the last 5 years, like what he's turned into offensively. Like, no, that's a dude.
Yeah, just give him more time. Because just give him more time, his average is going to go up drastically if he keeps it up.
Yeah, if he stays healthy too.
He started off not well because of his role. And then he kind of formed into himself. So
He's not really been an offensive player whatsoever.
Yeah, his first year he averaged 7, then 11, then 12, then 16, then 21, 25. Then he had that one Spurs season where he like sat out a lot, so he had 16. And then 26, 27, 24. So
the leap was crazy.
It was crazy. No, Kawhi's, you could argue top 50, but I don't think I'll put him top 50 yet.
Top 75?
If he gets a championship to Clippers, he's top 50.
Top 75, though.
I would say you could argue top 75 for sure. But top 50, because of the championships and the pedigrees and all kind of stuff, defensive player of the year, things like that, like all things surrounding him, yeah. But like top 50, I don't think he's top 50 yet. Yeah. If he's top 50, then like Paul George is nowhere near that.
Well, guys, I think we had another really good, podcast today. We went through a lot of stuff. We pretended to care about players who played in the 50s. Shout out to you, Bill Sharman. I hope you're doing well. Bob Cousy. I wish you could do better. But historically speaking, you're nice. What's up?
Oh, real quick, I just want to throw in, as I'm sure people know, the Suns and Ayton didn't come to an extension agreement, which means their relationship is probably going to go to trash. So, free agency and all that. Well, restricted free agency, and they're going to have to pay him anyway.
Yeah. New NBA news with Calvin. Dun-dun-dun. I'm gonna have to put that at the beginning of when you start. You got
it's just like we didn't talk about any of the stuff for real.
Oh yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Look, dog, we 93 minutes into this. We ain't got time for nothing else. But thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Traveling Hoopers NBA show. I have been your host, Alan Pettigrew Jr. Yes, I almost forgot my name for half a second. I'm not proud of that, but I'm about to go eat dinner. That's what I'm focused on right now. Guys, go ahead, close us out.
Once again, I'm Calvin McGowan. It's always a pleasure. Insert, the typical stuff. Like, share, subscribe on YouTube. Listen to us wherever you listen to your podcasts. And your favorite team will probably disappoint you this year.
Hey. Okay. Well, my name is Phil Dixon. I'm going to stay optimistic. Your favorite team will do just fine. Yep, Phil Dixon, a.k.a. Boy Wonder. And, follow us, subscribe down below, click that notification bell, and just hope and pray that Alan doesn't wear a tank top ever again.
Hey, look, your boy look good under this tank top. That's what matters. I wasn't going to go there until you said anything. But since we're here, on this side, it's going to be a video that you like. On this side, it's going to be a video that you should watch because I'm really good at this. And you will not be disappointed. And congratulations for staying this far ahead. You are a winner. Understand that. We out.